Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Escape to Nature, where I'm coming to you live from the Djuma Dam camera in the Sabi Sands, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park of South Africa. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and I'll be controlling this specific dam camera at Djuma, as well as in the Etosha National Park in Namibia at the Okukuyu Dam camera as well. Then we've got Andrew, who's out on Amakhala in the Eastern Cape, as well as Lauren, who's out in Madikwe in the Northwest. Now, as always, please don't forget that this is an interactive experience, so we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments, because this is the greatest and largest escape to the world, and to be on board with us. So I'm just panning and scanning around. I've not seen too much happening next to the Djuma Dam, but of course we do have a lonely Hadida. And I think it's pretty moderate weather-wise across all the different locations, but let's go and find out exactly how it's going to be. So you can see across the different locations, it's going to be quite moderate. There might be a little bit of rain around, but it's pretty cool for the animals to not be too overheated. And I think for the naturalists as well, it will be quite comfortable. And you can see this Hadida just doing a little bit of feather maintenance here next to the waterhole. I do think that there are the hippos in the water, but they've probably been out for another nightly jaunt. And having returned in the early morning, we generally don't see too much in the way of activity because it's now time for them to rest up after a long night grazing. And they might have walked pretty far as well. Who knows? But just watching this Hadida, and we do have a lot of them in South Africa. And so always nice just to check one out. They make a really loud racket. So it's nice to see one that's just quiet and going about its business. Very interesting, the toes, especially when you see them in tracks. It's quite interesting because you often see those three forward, one back, and then near to it, you see these little holes where the Hadidas have been probing, because that's exactly what they do with those long bills. And they're very sensitive as well. They can actually taste with them too. So that is the reason behind those long bills. In the ibis family, we often do see the sacred ibis next to the waterholes as well, but slightly different behavior. And we don't hear them as much, which is quite nice. So I prefer the sacred ibis. They're not as rowdy, not as noisy. But as always, I wonder what the bush has in store for us today. I wonder if Lauren's going to catch up with that giraffe carcass again. And I wonder if Andrew is going to be able to find any cheetah on Amakhala. We'll have to wait and see. Lily, you and me both. Let's hope that we get maybe some predators coming down here at the Djuma Dam. And I'm also really looking forward to what the day has to bring. Always nice just to start out with something because, as I say, this time of the day it can be a little bit quiet next to the water holes, but always having some birds coming down, and then you can always get a surprise. And every day does have one of those. So, what's going to be the surprise today? What do you reckon? Our birds always need to do this kind of feather maintenance. It's extremely important for them, both for their waterproofing of the feathers themselves, as well as, it's their transport. So it's pretty much like servicing your car. they've got to service their own bodies, enabling them to keep their transport mechanisms at the highest proficiency. And they do replace their feathers as well, they molt. So sometimes if they do get damaged feathers, it's only a matter of time, a few months, and they normally molt them out and get fresh ones. Have you ever seen a Hadedah dust bathing? I can't recall that I have. I don't seem to be one of those birds that do that. And I haven't seen them bathing either. They seem to sort of not partake in those two activities, not that I've seen anyway, mostly just maintaining their feathers with their very long bill. And that bill is really like a long set of tweezers. You can sometimes mistake Hadedahs for Hammerkops when they fly, but obviously once they call, there's no mistaking these fellows. And a lovely Tamboti tree in the foreground here. You can see from that, from the type of bark that it has. It's very dark, and then it's got these small little chips along the bark itself. As we start heading into winter now, you'll find that a lot of the trees will lose their leaves. So we need to identify the trees more so on their shape and of the particular bark that they have with them as well. Righty, so nice little start with the Hadedah as our most favorite bird in South Africa. But it seems like our favorite guide in the Eastern Cape, Andrew, is out and about.
Good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the eastern part of Carnarvondale here in Amakhala Game Reserve on quite a cloudy day. And we've actually stopped here right by this prickly pear over here, and we think this is actually quite a nice one to talk about. This is a huge prickly pear. Look at this. Morning again, everybody. My name's Andrew and Morgan's behind the camera. And we're exploring a whole new area of the game reserve. I haven't been here personally, Morgan has though, and it's spectacular up here. All the different plants that are growing up here, as well as, of course, this prickly pear. The aloes are so tall here. I have never seen aloes so big in my entire life. So I'm actually very glad that we came out here. Very different to what we are used to. But yeah, we're starting with this prickly pear over here. Now, this is actually a non-indigenous species of tree that grows out here. We did do a little piece of it during the sunrise safari, but we'll go through some of the things again. But this plant was planted about not this specific species or this individual, but the prickly pears were actually introduced here in the Eastern Cape by the 1820 settlers as food for cattle. And what they would do is they would take these massive branches and mulch it in a sort of a special machine, and that would be fed to cattle. But unfortunately, introducing certain non-indigenous plants into an area can be catastrophic. And this is a prime example of that. Now, I have been into game reserves where prickly pear really grows thick. And the problem is the more animals like elephants feed on them, the more they actually spread. Because the branches fall down, they fall out the sides of their mouths, and they actually start growing from that. And so they do take over very, very quickly. I just want to show you something over here. Oh, I must be careful not to stand on too many thorns here. So if you have a look at this cocoony plant, can you see it over here, Morgan? If I turn the branch. Yeah, boy. So you'll notice that there's some white stuff on the plant there. Yeah, we'll let go of it. That is from a cochineal beetle.
Is that lower one better?
This one? Yes, this is much better. There we go. So I'll just lift it a bit. So let me put my finger on it just to show you. And a lot of you will be familiar with cochineal dye. So you just touch it like I'm doing now. Wow, look at my finger. Can you see that? Look how red my finger's gone. So these dyes from the cochineal beetle is actually harvested and used in things like food colorant, also cosmetics, even modern day cosmetics. So when you think of your lipsticks and things like that, and you have that that pigment, that red pigment, that is actually coming from the cochineal dye, from the cochineal beetle. And these beetles will actually feed on this plant, and it does control these plants quite well. But the problem is they do target some of the aloe species as well here on the reserves, and that's not a very good thing because that's our indigenous plants. But it is helping a lot to control these prickly pears. There is an alternative way of controlling prickly pears, and that is to literally to get to the base of the plant, and you take a sharp dropper pole and you hammer a hole into the base of the plant, and then you inject it with a product called Roundup. But now Roundup is a very controversial product because apparently it's been known to get inside the groundwater, which is not good, and contaminates it. So yeah, reserves don't like to use Roundup, and so many years ago, introducing these cochineal beetles, they are slowly doing the job. Very interesting little plant. Some of you might have already eaten some prickly pear fruits in your time. If you have, let us know what you thought of it, the taste and all of that.
Wild Earth's mission is an expensive one, but we know that our live experience is important to so many people that cannot afford to pay for it. We have added a donate button to our website. By donating, you are directly helping us share our free nature experiences with the world. We want Wild Earth to reach children, budding conservationists, and the less fortunate. A little money goes a long way. You can make a difference to someone today.
So these plants are actually very fibrous, and when elephants do eat on prickly pears and you find that prickly pear material in their dung, it's very easy to identify because of the fibers and all the sort of the strands of fibers within their dung, and you know they've been eating some prickly pear. But yeah, we're going to continue exploring a little bit this wonderful area. Let's go back to Ralph in the meantime.
So it looks like one of our little characters here at Djuma has just exited the water. I think it's one of the youngsters that I'm not sure if it is one of Dewey's offspring. He's the bull, the dominant bull here in the dam itself. I would presume so. And that's why he's allowing the female that is with this one. And it seems there's a second youngster as well. So there's 4 of them. And this one looks to be joined by a red-billed oxpecker. So lovely to see it out the water. I wonder if it's just gone for a little bit of a feed. There we go, starting to graze. As you can see, it's an immature, still pretty young, just coming out of its baby stage. But look at that massive head. It's just incredible how big hippos' heads are. And when we look at little babies, at about 1 month old, a baby hippo weighs 3 times their birth weight. And at 5 months, they then weigh 10 times their birth weight. So they grow very, very quickly. We'll just have to try and keep up with this guy as it now sort of exits to the right. Just get our controls moving. There we go. What are you up to, you little one? Maybe you were playing too much when you went out last night, huh? You're still a bit hungry. Look at that stripping those leaves. So normally a grazer, but look at this. Looks like it's doing a little bit of browsing. That's very interesting. Now, hippos are also highly intelligent creatures. You shouldn't ever judge an animal's intelligence by its physical ability, because it's not linked. And hippos, per se, they might look slow, but I tell you what, they can run at about 40 kilometers an hour, between 35 and 40 kilometers an hour. So I think Usain Bolt, he's at around 30. He'd probably be about the same speed as a hippo. Imagine having Usain Bolt racing a hippo. It would probably be a good match, which would be crazy, because you see how big they are. You wouldn't assume or think that they could run very fast. Now, they are a little bit slower than most of the big animals. Rhinos are faster, elephants are faster, but as humans go, they still would be able to outrun 99.9% of us. Right. Having a little bit of a play. Let's just catch up. Looks like he's done with his browse. Male, female, I'm not quite sure. You can only see a little bit later on, the bigger they get. And then the ones that remain pink around the eyes are the females. And also you can just see by the shape of their skull, the males are a lot more gnarly and their tusks get quite a lot bigger. So you can actually see when it's a bull versus a female, just with regards to their eye and the size and shape of their skull. But it's difficult with this one when they're so young. That one's, probably around a year or so, maybe a little bit more. Scanning across, and there seems to be the other ones, or at least one of them. We'll wait and see if another one pops up. And as their Latin name suggests, Hippopotamus amphibius, they do really live 2 lives, one in the water and one on land. And I still do very strongly believe that the link between the land and the water mammals. But spending time in the water, it's not so much down to them getting sunburnt as a lot of information might say. It's more to do with their temperature regulation that they're not very good at, or their body isn't very good at. So they stay in the water just for the temperature control of their body. less so than being sunburnt, because some days it's very hot and you see them out lying in the sun and they have a kind of waxy excretion that covers their body in this kind of sunscreen or natural sunblock. So they do naturally protect themselves against the harmful rays of the sun, but their body temperature is not easily maintained. So when it's very hot, you'll generally find them in the water, keeping cool. And then as it cools off, generally that's when they'll come out, and mostly during the night. But if you see it's a nice overcast day, such as today, then you often find the hippos out of the water, sometimes just lying up in an area or even feeding. So it's more to do with that kind of regulation of their body temperature. You see a little blacksmith lapwing there on the shoreline. Looks like he's indeed gone for a little bath. And also doing, like the Hadedah was earlier, a bit of feather maintenance. Very important for birds to continuously do this to make sure that their transport mechanisms are perfectly maintained. See some fish rising in the foreground too, probably catfish. They don't have fully developed gills, so they do actually need to take a little sips of air every now and then to survive. A lot of these pans will be dominated by catfish. You may also have tilapia in them too, but generally with a water body such as this that does recede and grow, or with the seasons, and it can be completely empty, like I've seen it when it was 2018, 2019. Then it's generally only catfish that will survive those periods of dryness when they cocoon themselves in the mud. Anyway, hopefully we get a little bit more action here, but lovely to see that baby hippo out of the water. And well, I think it's time to head on over to Lauren to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And yes, it is a good morning. Look what we have. It's rather smelly, but I don't care. We have my favorites right in front of us on that giraffe carcass. It is still going strong in Madikwe Game Reserve, and it's hot and it's sunny and life is just good. Good morning. My name is Lauren, and Rian, of course, is with me on camera. That is his thumb. That's all you'll see of him, but he's there, I promise. And we're going to sit here as long as we can because, wow. My babies. They're here. And it's just so good to see them. Yes. You guys are really tucking into that giraffe. How utterly delightful. It's a lot smellier than it was yesterday, put it that way. It's obviously been baking in the sun. And of course it's now older and older. So the giraffe is rather smelly, but we are at Pukoje Dam, and that means jackal. So it's a lovely dam in the northwest, and we're actually right in the northwest corner now. It's just such a beautiful area. I know for a fact elephants will come down. There are some nice birds around, and of course we have the hyenas, the jackal. I don't know how you guys have any room left in your tummy. I wonder if it's the same hyenas. I couldn't possibly tell you. I didn't manage to identify them. There was a lot happening yesterday. I imagine it is. They'll come and go, they'll eat, they'll leave. And look at them just eating with the jackal. I mean, this just shows you that the hyena doesn't really want the jackal there, but also at the same time it's not bothered. There's a lot of food. There's plenty to go around. And they really get stuck in there. Darcy Miller, good to hear from you. And yes, it's a great start to see hyenas. Ooh, it's a smelly start. You need that tiger balm, Rianne. Yes, there's one over there. So at least so far we have a count of 3. And that is better than the 0 that we have been seeing lately. I believe 2 very special people are watching right now. They're called the Bampots. They're from Scotland. Hi, Robbie and Lucy. My niece and nephew are watching all the way from Scotland, and I just want you guys to know that I miss you terribly, and Auntie Lauren will be home very soon. And remember I told you guys about my favorite animal? It's the hyena. This is the hyena here. Yes, but it's really smelly. Apparently the dog wants a piece of giraffe. I'm sure she does. Although I don't know about that. It's been lying dead for quite a while. I find smells really difficult to describe, and this smell, I don't know how to describe it to anyone other than death. But I'm really glad that Robbie and Lucy are watching. I hope you asked some wonderful questions, you two. I actually had an awful dream long ago about Robbie, Lucy, and a hyena, but we shall save that story for another time. Ah, this sighting is just too perfect. You know, it's 10 o'clock in the morning and the sun is really harsh. It's very, very harsh. The glare from the water is not so easy to stare at, but it's getting hot. So it could mean that this carcass, the activity, it could die down pretty soon. So for now, since it's active, let's just sit and enjoy it. Starbuck. Now I know it's Starbuck and not Starbucks. No, I don't. We don't have any information at all, I'm afraid. Oh, look at that one in the water. I just saw that one. Yeah, one's having a bath. No, I still don't know. It is a boy, or it was a boy. So they could have been necking, could have snapped its neck, although it doesn't look like it. Could have got a sort of puncture wound. I don't think it was lions, so I'm really honestly not sure. I am going to try and find out though. Sorry, I'm just chuckling at that one. Oh, it's coming. No, it's not. There's one in the water. And I find it really funny when hyenas go into the water. And they just sit there. Ah, you're waddling. Oh my goodness, look at that full tummy. Whew! hyenas can sometimes look like they ate a hot air balloon. Look at the waddle. You cannot be going for more food. Chris Bacon, absolutely an amazing sighting. Actually, I couldn't ask for more. I love the sightings of the elephants and the zebra and the lions and the dogs and everything, but a carcass with hyenas and jackal is my ultimate dream. It's top of the bucket list for me out here. I love it because it's so dynamic, other than the smell, of course. You get to see a lot of interactions. Look at this huge spotted hyena feeding right next to a tiny jackal. There's a lot going on. And over time, as the giraffe obviously gets less and less and less, you see different things, different animals will arrive. The vultures will come, the brown hyena might even come. Lions might even rock up. You just never know what's going to happen at a carcass, and I just love it. But I have got my tiger balm on hand, just in case. Oh, that stuff is fantastic. It almost looks like the jackals and the hyenas are friends here, and they're not. But look at this. Look at the size difference when that hyena stands up. I'm going to get my binos out to see if I can see if... I can't see any mammary glands, so therefore I'm not sure if it's a male or a female, but due to the size it looks like a female. I mean, with hyenas you never know. We thought Swazi, one of the hyenas in Djuma, was a boy. And for a long time, just Swazi the boy, Swazi the boy. He used to jog with me, he used to sleep outside my room, and then of course he gave birth. Yes, he did. So he is now a she, and it's very difficult to get your head around that. You always thought Swazi was a boy, and now she's a mom. Yeah, anyway. Grace, you just gave me a comment, and I have gone and forgotten it. But I think you're saying it's amazing how the jackals and the hyenas are just feeding alongside one another. If not, Grace, then I just made that up. Let's see, this one looks more like a boy to me. Yes, I know you see the penis stroke pseudo penis, could be either, but the body shape looks like a male here. Hyenas will throw you under the bus every time. Did you hear that? That's the grebes. The whistling call of the grebes. Yeah, I think that's a boy. The females are dominating the carcass. The boys have to wait their turn. How'd you like that? Although it's really sad that a giraffe died here, and of course it is, a carcass that size will provide so much food for so many animals. Not just the hyenas, although they probably will eat the bulk of it. So many animals will benefit from this. And not just the animals, the soil, the vegetation. A big carcass goes a long way. Death means life out here, which is a really strange thing to get your head around. Will hear the wind, everyone. It's quite a windy day today. This is honestly the sighting I've been dreaming of. As well as a brown hyena den. But at least I got one of them. We only have 4 days left at the bush camp, so I have to make the most of it. The bush camp is this incredibly cool, eco place in the middle. It's in the center. So it's so easy to go north, south, east, west. Wherever you want to go, you can go because you're right in the middle. When you're in the east, it's difficult to get all the way to the west. But when you're in the center, you can go anywhere. And it's completely off-grid. We get no signal, no Wi-Fi, no electricity. It's an adventure. You're just living in the bush. It's unfenced as well. It's incredibly wild, and it really is a great experience for those of you that like that kind of adventure. I would highly recommend the bush camp. It's called Mosetla, but it's known as Mosetla the Bush Camp. And Mosetla is Swana for the weeping wattle tree. You know, I watched The Lion King recently on the flight, actually. I was crying on the flight. It got me really emotional. And it's the remake. It's a new Lion King, not the one from when I was a kid. And it's done so well. They did such a good job with that. And although they did an incredible job, they still make hyenas look terrible. I really wish they hadn't made hyenas look so awful. But I guess they do give them a positive twist in the end, because they are the ones that come and chase away Scar, I think. But they're really not that bad. They're actually highly entertaining. Way more entertaining than some animals that just sleep all day. Ali Rian likes the tiger balm. He loves it, and luckily I brought it with me from Thailand. So he will be more than happy with that. I don't have any wild sage with me. You need evolve for that, but I do have tiger balm, so we're sorted. It's only when the wind blows in our direction do we really get hit in the face with the awful smell. I don't think we're going to be able to get them because of the roof, but I can see vultures soaring. So they're in the area. And obviously they're just riding the thermals for now. There's no point in landing when the carcass is dominated by hyenas, because you're not going to get anywhere. I think that's the vultures. But they know it's here. They were here yesterday. Harry, the predators. There is no way, I mean obviously there's a lot less meat now, but there is no way if lions made this kill and put all the energy into taking down a giraffe like this, it would take a lot of work, a lot of skill, a lot of energy. Would they just leave it and give it to the hyenas? No way. No way. So the lions would still be here. A leopard could not take down a giraffe, I'm afraid, neither dogs nor a cheetah. So it would only be the lions. If it was to be killed by another giraffe, which this might possibly be the case, boys fight and they're pretty reckless about it. It's quite a dangerous feat to slam your neck into another being when your neck is so long. So could have been killed by another giraffe, and the only way we would know that if we could actually see the wound, the puncture wound of the ossicone. So because a lot of the giraffe is now missing, I'm not able to see that. So I'm not able to conclusively say, yes, this was definitely killed by another male giraffe. But those are the signs that lions would honestly not leave a carcass, especially not with this much meat left. So I think it's either been natural causes or a fight with another male. That's going to be my sort of guess in this situation. Oh, another one. We've actually got 5 hyenas. Yes. They just keep coming. They just keep appearing. I would love it if a brownie appeared. Not sure that's going to happen though. But one can wish.
Thanks to our wonderful Wild Earth explorers, Wild Earth Kids is back. Your monthly subscriptions have allowed us to relaunch Wild Earth Schools on a weekly basis, every Wednesday for the first hour of the Sunset Safari.
You guys bring a smile to my face every single day.
Sign your class up for a special virtual field trip to Africa, because touching the lives of the future protectors of our Earth truly matters.
This is amazing. I really thought the vultures would actually be around. They were yesterday, but they're not today. There's not actually many trees around that they can perch on, and they probably don't want to be on the ground. Look at this one. This is probably my favorite escape to nature yet, but you guys already knew that. I just think they love it. I'm not sure that it boils down to benefits. I just think they love it. I think they're very confident in the water. I think it doesn't really clean them, because when they come out they look as dirty as ever. But I think they just love water. They love the feel of it. It cools them down. That's a benefit, I guess. is very hot already. It's really heating up today. It doesn't really feel like winter. And I think it's just really comfortable, especially on their full bellies. I often think that it feels really good for lactating mothers as well. The hyena cubs can be really rough. Probably feels really good, soothes any injuries. Maybe cleans them. Four hyenas. I feel like your favorite birds, Rian, the guinea fowl, have just realized that there are hyenas here. Rian loves a guinea fowl. Well, I don't think I need to say this, but I shall anywhere. I'm not going to go anywhere. This is me for the afternoon, but you guys are going to head back over to Amakhala.
Okay, myself and Morgan have gone through quite a few valleys at the moment, and I must say we are having the time of our lives out here. It is so fun exploring these new areas that I've never been, at least. And as you can see, it's just so picturesque with all the plants growing here and the valleys and the red roads. Wow, look at this, spectacular. Just beautiful in here. Definitely a good place to hopefully see some Knysna taracos, and you never know, Nerina trogon as well. This is a brilliant place. But let's have a look at this plant that's growing here. This is known as spekboom. Now it's actually got quite a few names. Spekboom, fet plant, elephant food, elephant plant, the carbon plant, wonder plant. So there's quite a few different names to this. But yeah, for humans and also animals, this plant is very, very nice. It releases more oxygen in the atmosphere than any other plant that is recorded in, I think in Africa. If I'm not mistaken, it could also be the world. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know definitely in Africa. Now these plants are, yeah, they're quite advanced because they don't only use the sunlight to photosynthesize, but they're also using moonlight to create food, which is very interesting. Spekboom. Elephants absolutely adore this plant. This is a great staple diet for elephants. And I was just mentioning to Morgan, because on Amakhala, the main reserve side, we do see spekboom, but only in certain places. And the more elephants feed on this plant, the more it spreads, just like the prickly pear. Branches can easily propagate. So if we had to cut a little branch over there and put it in a pot, it's going to grow. It's going to grow well. Now there's various projects in South Africa that gets the local communities involved, which is a great thing. And what they're doing is they go into the bush, they collect some of these spekbooms, and then they replant them in areas where there's quite vicious erosion and the land is getting washed away. And this has been known to really hold the soils very well together and helps to manage the erosion. Now the leaves are totally edible. Some people add the leaves to the salad just to, spice it up, just to make it a little bit different. And it can be eaten quite nicely. And sometimes the leaves are sweet in color. Other times the leaves can be quite bitter in taste. Sorry, did I say color earlier on? I see you looking at me, Morgan. So my bad there. Sweet in color. Oh goodness, I'm just loving this valley. Maybe there's a lot of oxygen here. I don't know. Sweet in taste in the afternoons, but I believe it's also bitter in taste in the mornings. And that's got to do with some of the sugars that they produce to create food, the sucrose, and so therefore the leaves can be quite sweet certain times of the day, which is quite nice. Tortoises eat this plant very, very nicely, and they grow very quickly when they're eating certain species of aloes and also speckworm. And I believe in Arrow Elephant National Park, the growth rate per year is the highest in the whole of Southern Africa with tortoises. They're growing tremendously fast out there. Whereas if you go up north, it's a very slow process for a tortoise to grow because of the plants that they're eating on out there. Just a lovely plant. So we've actually done a piece on it before. I was with Mpho, and Mpho was telling me that his mom likes to plant a lot of plants and takes little snippings and tries to replant them in pots. So we got permission from one of the landowners out here, and we cut a little branch, and he took it all the way back to Johannesburg and gave it to his mom. So Mpho's mom, if you are watching, I hope you're enjoying it. It's the wonder plant, the carbon plant, or elephant food. But yeah, let's go back to Ralph. Let's see what he wants to chat about or what he's got to show you.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, it does seem like there's all sorts going on and a nice range of sightings from Lawrence, hyenas, and Andrew concentrating a little bit on botany. That's wonderful. Well, for us here at the Djuma Dam Cam, the hippos are now back in play mode. So the youngsters having a ball, that one rolling right onto its back. Wow. I've not seen that many times. And what is quite exciting is that we do know that there's wild dogs in the area. So if we're lucky, we might get to see them coming down for a drink. They're not too far from here, towards Zoe's Road and Quarantine. So hopefully they get thirsty and they come and show themselves next to the water hole here. That would be nice. But in the meantime, just watching these guys play. Although I think a lot of the play is actually underwater. Now, it looks like we're just looking at a Natal Gwari. Looks like here in the foreground, and the camera likes to focus on that. A little bit difficult for us to get the focus right when there is plants in front of our target in the background. Anyway, when the hippos do come up, then it generally focuses in on there. So it looks like our hippos are carrying on under the water and not easy for us. I wish we had X-ray eyes or a camera that would go into the water. But while we wait and carry on with this playful hippos, let's head you on to an active sighting with Lauren.
We've got all the hyenas feeding on the carcass right now, or they were. There's very little animosity between them, very little aggression. I don't know if this is maybe the lower rankers, or if there's just plenty to go around. But sometimes when the high rankers are here, whoo, it can get very, very aggressive. Izzy B. Jackals can get very round when they want to, that's for sure. And these ones, whew, they look so full and they just keep going and going. Eating and eating. It's like Christmas Day for us. Take a break and then keep going. It's funny, the jackals' little tummies, they don't bulge like the hyenas. They've got tiny little tummies in comparison. But it's just nice to see them feeding side by side. I am a bit surprised. Sometimes you'll see at carcasses, the hyenas will chase the jackals away and be quite aggressive with them, and the jackals just can't get in. They sort of wait on the periphery. But here, they're just all eating together. Maybe the hyenas can't be bothered chasing them away. Maybe it's too much effort. Morning coffee. You're saying it's so good. I found this diner, I think. Sorry, my comms are really bad. I'm going to reboot on my side. Yes, we're very lucky. We would not have came here if we were in the east. This is far too far. Really far. Whereas we're lucky that we're staying at the bush camp and we can just come up here. It's still about a half an hour, if not more, journey, but it's completely doable. Madikwe is huge, honestly. You can just be driving for days. And there's so much to see everywhere. And each area, each corner of Madikwe looks so different. It's very diverse on so many levels. And I guess each person will have their favorite part of Madikwe. I love the Northwest. I really do. But maybe some people will love the East, maybe some people will love the South. It's all so different. But it's been tricky to get spotted hyenas on camera, that's for sure. There was a Dane, just wasn't easy to view. It wasn't a termite mound like the one in Djuma. It was an underground burrow system and the vegetation just got really thick there. So we did have some lovely sightings, but I wouldn't say it was quite like Djuma. It was a little bit trickier to spend time with them. Yes, we're talking about you guys. That one's got an interesting butterfly ear on its left ear. Not too unlike ribbon. That doesn't look too pleasant. By doing what the hyena just did there, by dragging and sort of pulling bits of the carcass, that's actually assisting in the breakdown and the spread of the nutrients. Every single body that's alive is a nutrient powerhouse, really, including ourselves. And when that living being dies, the nutrients stay within the body. They have to be unlocked in order for other organisms and the sort of planet to benefit from them. And here they're being unlocked. All the nutrients that were housed inside this giraffe are now seeping into the soil and the surrounds and into the hyenas and jackals. And then of course they will defecate, they will spread some of those nutrients. They will also drag bits of the carcass away, and by doing that they're spreading the nutrients. It changes the whole concept when you think of it like that. Instead of it just thinking of it as death, when you think of it more as what's the giraffe is. The giraffe is giving back to life. And the plants will really flourish here now. All the surroundings, the vegetation will flourish after this. Or maybe not during winter, but once the rain comes around again. What a day this is turning out to be. And tonight, very exciting, we are having our Earth Day fireside chat. And that is tonight at 7 p.m. Central African time. So wherever you are in the world, make sure you convert to your time zone and join the fireside chat. Help us invest in our planet. Carcass is actually a perfect way to celebrate the planet by talking about these things. The nutrient cycle, the process of decay, decomposition, and what's actually happening here. A lot of people will just be like, oh, scavengers. Yes, like they are scavenging, but there's so much more happening. There'll be a lot of insect life there. There'll be a lot of insects that are using the carcass to lay their eggs. Larvae will be there, the start of a new life cycle, spread of nutrients, the unlocking of nutrients. Everything that is happening in the surrounds. It's a great way to celebrate Earth Week. Sometimes we forget to look at everything in its entirety. And I think the term ecological role is a good thing because it helps us understand what every organism is doing for sorry about that. FC, I think you need to mute the comms. Yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say there now. Yes, ecological role. A lot of people say, what is the ecological role of that hyena? And it's great that we're starting to think about that, how it fits into the ecosystem, how everything works, how everything is interconnected. But it's a lot more intricate than that. So although I think the term is good because it gets people to see the bigger picture, I also think it can be quite limiting. Because we as humans have identities and we have a career, a job, and a role, we tend to think in a little bit more of a singular fashion. So when we say, what is the ecological role of a spotted hyena? That's so limiting. I think there will be a lot of sort of roles, I'm not sure that's the right word, that we can identify, but also there will be a lot that we can't. And not one species has one ecological role like we have career. I'm a naturalist, that's how I see myself. But then I guess I am so many other things. And it's the same with the animals. They're not just playing one part. They're fitting into such an intricate system. A system that I personally don't believe we fully understand. It's impossible to understand an ecosystem in its entirety because we're blind to so much. There are things we don't smell. There are things we don't hear. There are things we don't see. Colors we don't see. Chemicals we can't pick up on. We're not in tune to the Earth's vibration like many organisms are. So although we try to understand an ecosystem and we really do our best, I think the term ecological role, which a lot of people ask about, can be quite limiting. They're like, nature's cleanup crew, yay. Yes, I guess they are cleaning up, but they're also doing a whole lot more. They've also got a role to play that we probably don't understand. They've also got a role to play as a species. They're not just nature's cleanup crew. So although I think that term is good, it does get you to recognize that everything plays a part. Touching on interconnectivity, it also can be quite limiting, I feel. I don't know, what do you guys think? When you study ecology, it was great at university, but I always remember thinking, it's a science about everything. It's about an organism and the surrounding world. But a lot of what you're taught, and this is not a criticism, it just can be quite limiting. It's basically a science that is taught as a science, and it is taught with boundaries and limitations from a human perspective. And it's great because it educates us on a topic that we don't know about. But I think with ecology, as I've mentioned before, you need to think like that mountain. You need to think of it more as a poetic science rather than a science. You need to think of it more in terms of phenomenology rather than ecology as a science. Phenomenology is an amazing topic. It's something that you can go really deep with. And I think that's the way they need to sort of start teaching these subjects rather than isolated little nuggets. This ecosystem has a carrying capacity. Only 1,000 elephants can live here. And it's just all very limiting. It's just all very much from a human perspective. And that's not really how the ecosystem works. Again, we're looking at things for our benefit.
Here on Wild Earth, we're on 25 different platforms globally, and we're looking at each of them to see what is the best mix for the future. Please take 30 seconds of your time to fill in this survey. It will be super helpful for us. The last thing we want is for your viewing habits to be affected. Thanks.
goodness for this breeze. We are going to reposition shortly because I am in the baking sun, which was fine for a little bit, but no longer fine. Oh, you can really hear them crunching through the bones. I think the wind is too strong for you guys, but they're crunching through bones. Okay, we're going to reposition on this side, but we're not leaving, that's for sure. But you guys are going to head over to Andrew.
Nice one, Lauren. Sounds like you're having a whale of a time there at Madikwe. What a beautiful game reserve. But yeah, back to Amakhala in the Eastern Cape, and what a beautiful reserve this is as well. Now, we have found some really cool little spots over here, little game trails. Some of them are big game trails. We found the most beautiful viewpoint over here. It's really difficult to show it to you, but I must say it is really spectacular. This is a whole new area of the reserve. Over the last 5 years, or almost 5 years, that I've been associated with Amakhala, I've never been to this area. So yeah, we are definitely making the most of our day out here. But have a look at this beautiful aloe here. Wow, some of the aloes here are growing taller than the vehicle itself. They're huge. Yeah, some of them are even a little bit more, double the height of a Land Rover with the roof. Now, sometimes we do show you the aloes on the main reserve of Amakhala, and you'll notice they're quite small and most of their leaves have been bitten off. Not out here though. Here in the eastern part of Carnarvondale, because of the lack of elephants out here, these aloes just grow and grow and grow and just don't stop growing. Now, they actually grow pretty slowly in relation, so it's just making me think, how old is this environment actually? Okay, so we're just going to show you the next gap in the bush that we've got here, going on to the next bank. And there's some pretty tall aloes growing on that side, which you'll probably see quite nicely. Now, we are noticing some very large game paths in some of the valleys over here. And myself and Morgan were just having a chat that, how long ago exactly was it that elephants, freely roamed these environments over here? Because it does look like some of the game paths are from elephant. That's how big some of the game paths are. Very interesting. Now we're just keeping our ear open to hear what new birds we're going to be hearing and seeing out here, because definitely there's going to be some. Great place for Knysna woodpecker and olive woodpecker, Nerina trogon, Knysna tarako. Some of the barbets, and I'm sure green-backed, green-backed Camaroptera. Hi, Erica. They are edible, but these bitter aloes are very bitter. And when I was with Mpho, I actually tried one, and it is very, very bitter. But yeah, they can be used medicinally. So if for back in the day, to get rid of tapeworms in the body of your body, you could eat some of the aloes and aloe juice as well, and that would help to expel things like tapeworm and so on. If you have any bee stings or insect bites, even sunburn, you can rub some of the juice onto your body. Cuts and abrasions. They're very interesting plants. But even the local farmers, to treat their cattle and also chickens, I believe. Chickens apparently have got quite a lot of parasites in their body. To relieve them of those parasites in farming situations, sometimes they'll just break off some aloe plant and just stick it into the water troughs, allow those cattle and those sort of animals to drink and get some of the aloe properties in their body, expelling some of the parasites out of their body. I have mentioned this a few times as well, but bitter aloe, you can actually go to chemists in South Africa. I'm not sure about abroad, but you can buy bitter aloe crystals. and some of them are about the size of a match head. You eat one of those per day over a long period of time, it's going to make your blood very bitter. It changes the taste of the blood, and mosquitoes and ticks and things like that, they don't like it. And so if you do struggle with parasites biting you, the trick is to try and make your blood as bitter as you can, as least desirable for those parasites. Now, I think one of the most medicinal plants on the planet, as we know, is actually the aloe vera. I don't think they grow out here, but this is the aloe ferox. Dale, thanks for your concern there. No, we're not scared. We are in our element out here. Definitely. You're just driving through some of these valleys, you can't help but just look from side to side. I'm looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right. And then you look under the bushes to see what plants are popping through there. Oh, what plant is that? Oh, I don't know. Take a photo. I'm going to send it to one of my friends. So yeah, that's the whole nature of exploring. The only concern that, when we're in this sort of environment that comes to my mind is if the vehicle decides to have an extended nap, or we have a burst tire or something like that. But we do have a spare wheel, and we've got a jack and spanner. We'll make a plan and change the flat wheel. But if we had to get stuck here, or if we broke down in here, how on earth are we going to ever explain where we are? No, you can get lost in these thickets, these valleys. Wow, I'm sure you can get lost, especially if you are unfamiliar with your direction. And one of the keys to being in the bush, the first thing you really must familiarize yourself with is where north, east, south, and west is. And then that helps you a lot, and you don't get lost, and you know which direction you're walking. But if you're wandering through here cluelessly and you don't know your environment very well, or your cardinal points, navigational points, you can find yourself in a tricky situation because it all looks the same out here. Oh, I can hear a somber greenbill calling. Willie, Willie. And another thing we've been noticing coming through here is how well the old man's beard is actually growing in here. Very little disturbance through here because of lack of vehicles and things like that. And it seems like the air here is just very healthy, and that's why the old man's beard is growing very well. But it was interesting, someone mentioned, I can't remember where I saw this. Was this on, oh yes, this was on Facebook, because I remember someone took a screenshot of the old man's beard, and then Taylor wrote a little write-up next to it, and I learned a lot from her little write-up. But then somebody afterwards mentioned that somewhere overseas, I'm not sure where it was, where the old man's beard is growing on the plants, that it's got quite a detrimental effect to the plants because it sort of smothers it, and so on. Now we saw a false olive, and the false olive, it was totally smothered by this old man's beard, and it didn't seem like it was doing very well, except for the old man's beard, of course, was thriving. But if you truly want to explore these sort of areas, the best way is going to be on your feet. You walk around, and that's where you're going to truly explore. And we've already seen a few cool things on the ground, rocks that have been chipped away, so old stone tools and things like that. Having a chat with one of the field guides, Martin, out here on Amakhala, and he says that there's quite a bit of petrified wood to be found. Some of it's cycad wood, and some of it's the yellow wood, Outeniqua yellow wood. I'm just going to grab my binoculars and just have a look here. Okay, we're going to continue adventuring along here, see what else we can find you, but let's go back to Ukukuyo with Ralph.
Yes, well, welcome to Etosha National Park, the Great White Place. Today it's a little bit overcast, so there's quite a bit of cloud movement. Seems like it's coming in from the north as it moves through there. But we've got a nice group of zebra. I think it's just been spooked by something. There's lots of springbok as well. It was a bit quiet earlier, but as we know, it ebbs and flows here. And within 5 minutes, it can go from deadly quiet to absolutely steaming, which is what it's starting to look like now. And sometimes you can have hundreds of animals here in the water, next to the water, milling about. You can see some of the springbok feeding on the remnants of some of the bushman grass or Stipagrostis that's left over after the rains. I don't think there'll be much around for much longer. As we head into the dry season now, there will be less and less clouds around normally, and generally it will be drying up. And the animals then spending more time around these big water points, such as here at Okukuyo. And I often say it, but it's always worth saying again for anybody else that doesn't know. This area around Okukuyo, there's not many water holes. So after the rains, there might be a lot of puddles and small pools lying around, and so the animals can spread out a bit. They don't need to worry to come to this particular point. But from here, it's about 15 kilometers each way to the next closest decent water hole. The one to the south is Umbika, then going north is to Okondeka, but that's right next to the pan, and the water is very salty there and not much in the way of food for the animals. So this is the reason why this water hole is very well visited, because there's not much else around. And currently at this time of year, there's not too many elephants that'll be here because they've all moved off to the eastern side of the reserve. You know, in the area around Namutoni, lots and lots of water holes there, but that's where the rain generally starts. So they would have moved off, migrated onto that side. As it starts drying up, you'll start finding that the elephants will move back towards Okukuyu, and then you'll start seeing the big herds around this water hole again. So I'll say within the next month or so, we should start to see a lot more elephant activity here, but it's absolutely normal that at this time of year we don't see too many. It's generally the odd lonely bull on his own that will come through and have a drink, and then off he goes. But we don't see those big herds usually at this time of the year and the season, which dictates that. So when we go to Etosha, when we go to Namibia, obviously there's a lot of specialized birds, a lot of specialized animals. We speak a lot about the springbok, the oryx, the ostriches being particularly desert adapted creatures, but there's also a lot in the way of birds that you get in Namibia that you get nowhere else. So some of the birds that I'll mention you do get in other parts, but they are still pretty special birds, and some of them you only get in Namibia. So if you're an avid birder and you want to get up some of your numbers, well, Etosha in particular and Namibia as a whole is one of those places where you can add a lot of species that you wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. Laurie, I would say that I do indeed come from Namibia, although I was born in South Africa. I immediately after studying, I went to Namibia overlanding guide, driving the big trucks, and I spent over 10 years there. So all of my sort of beginnings of my professional life was spent there, and most of my friends are there in Swakopmund. I was married in Namibia, and so yes, I consider it my home, although I've moved back to South Africa My cousin was actually the headmaster of the Walvis Bay High School. But that was during the interim phase where, because Namibia actually gained independence in 1990 from South Africa. However, they kept Walvis Bay and the harbour in particular, but they had to include the whole town of Walvis Bay as part of South Africa until 1995. It was either 1994, 1995. So it was incredible because you would drive for hundreds of kilometers after having left South Africa. And then once you got to Walvis Bay, you crossed the border back into South Africa. And there was border control and everything. I remember having to produce our passports, but it was crazy that we were going back into South Africa in this little island so far away. And so my cousin, who's also South African, he remained as the headmaster there. But obviously then when Namibia took Walvis Bay, or it was given, to Namibia, as it would have to be. I mean, you couldn't keep this little town as part of South Africa, but it was a strategic point, as one of the major harbor there. So that was when, he had to either become Namibian or go back to South Africa. So yeah, then things changed around that time. But very close connections with Namibia. Namibia is very much like South Africa. The people are very similar, although you do get a lot of different cultural differences. In Namibia, you've got the Ovambu people, who are the dominant or the most populated out of all the different cultural tribes or ethnicity. And then you've got Herero, you've got Damara, you've got the Busters, which they are just south of Windhoek. And they're a colored people, very similar to the sort of Cape colors that we get in South Africa. And so very, very diverse in its cultures. And they've also got 12 different local languages, which includes English, Afrikaans, German, Oshivambu, Damara, Herero, and we also mustn't forget the Himbas, who are the sort of semi-nomadic tribesmen that stay up in the northwestern wilderness. Then you've got the Caprivi people, the Tswana, and so it's just a wonderfully diverse country. And in the far northeastern area, it's very tropical. But then the rest of Namibia, very from semi-arid to arid savanna. So it's extremely diverse, and you can be in the desert one day and in the tropical lush region of the Zambezi the next. But it's a very big country. France is 3/4 the size of Namibia. So it's huge, and there's only 3 million people, less than 3 million people in Namibia itself. So on average, 2 people per square kilometer. So if you want to go to a place and be out on your own, well, Namibia is the place. We call it the land of wide open spaces and happy faces. It's always incredible how the less people there are in a particular area, the more happy they seem to be. And whenever you drive around Namibia on safari and discovering the country, you will notice that wherever you go, people will wave, whether it's on the road, driving, or walking in the street. People are very happy and welcoming. It's a lovely, lovely country. One of my favorite places in the world, and Etosha in particular. Bundu Bash, you're very welcome. Yeah, as I say, I do have a very big spot in my heart for Namibia, and I do specialize in this country. I think I know it better than my country of birth, South Africa. So yes, Namibia is wonderful. It's just amazing. And if you've never been there, you have to go, especially if you're a safari enthusiast and you've been around in different national parks and seen it. If you think you've seen it all and you haven't seen Namibia, well, you have to go there. It's just incredible. And Etosha in particular is very, very special indeed. So it looks like some of the springbok going for a drink and going for a swim, and looks like some more zebra arriving.
It's that time again. Time to update you, our loyal and amazing Wild Earth family, on what is going on behind the scenes here at Wild Earth. Join Andre Crawford Brandt and Emily Wellington in the town hall on Sunday 23rd April at 7 p.m. Central African Time. And this time, it is open to all our registered users. Wild Earth, it's in your nature.
So, and we often, obviously, in all the reserves, we see the different hornbills, special hornbills that you get down in Amakhala, for instance, in the Eastern Cape. We get it here where I am in Port Alfred. The crowned hornbill, you won't see that up in the Lowveld or in the Madikwe area. They've got more so the grey hornbill, the red-billed hornbill, the yellow-billed hornbill. So yeah, a little bit of a difference there, but here in Etosha, you get the Bradfield's hornbill, which they also call the Damara hornbill. They've actually only just split that recently off of the red-billed hornbill, and they've said that and it's endemic only to Namibia. You only get it there, as well as the Montero's hornbill. So two very special ones there as well. So I always like to look at the different special animals and birds, etc., that you get in a particular area. And speaking of which, I think it's time to head back to Lauren. I wonder which special birds she's seen on Madikwe.
No special birds here, Ralph, that's for sure, but the hyenas are still feasting away. Never ending. I'm trying to think what birds we've seen that are unique here. The yellow-throated sand grouse at Clow Dam was very cool. I saw that, however, we didn't get it on camera. It was a new bird for me. Sino, the Abdim storks. They're not entirely unusual, but you don't get them in the Lowveld, so that was sort of a new experience for me, especially seeing them all. The crimson-breasted shrike I have seen many times before, but it's lovely to get it on camera and talk about it and appreciate it. Cory bustards. They are just amazing. They're everywhere here at Madikwe. More so up in the north near the plains area, but they are really, really special to get on camera. And I didn't see any flamingo, I'm afraid. I think that must have been when Cedric was here. So I don't have any information or update on the flamingo, I'm afraid. Last time I saw flamingo was in Buffelshoek at Kayamandi. That was an amazing find. An amazing dam all round. I think the hyenas are also getting hot. It's really hot in the sun, hence why we repositioned. Rita, it doesn't really work like that. They will most likely stay in the area. And that is because they're just going to keep feeding on it. It's huge. This carcass is going to go a long way. It's not an impala. So they will stay in the area. You can see this one here is just chilling in the shade. Probably full, resting and digesting in a nice cool spot. But if lions came along, no, they're not going to defend it. They're just going to let the lions take it. But naturally, if a brown hyena came along, they would most likely chase the brown hyena away. So yes and no, they are going to hang around, but it really depends on what arrives as to whether they defend it or not. But they will not leave. Not as long as there's food, they will not leave. They may disappear and sleep away the day. They are nocturnal animals after all. And they may even come back, but they know this is here. And they'll be more than aware that there's plenty to go around. See, they'll just keep coming. They also have the water. It's really a great advantage that the water is right there. Benji. Reptiles? I don't think so. I don't think any reptiles are going to be sort of attracted to this carcass. Naturally, you do get monitor lizards here, you do get snakes, you do get tortoises, you do get geckos and lizards. But I don't think any of them are going to be attracted to this carcass per se, especially when it's so active with all of these hyenas and jackals. I don't think we'll see any reptiles. I would love to. I adore reptiles, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Such an amazing sight to see, really it is. But I think you'd be surprised at what is attracted to a carcass. You know, even hippos have been recorded snacking on carrion that it comes across. Insects, yes, you would think so, but I mean butterflies, moths, they will also be attracted. Blood contains a lot of nutrients and it's liquid, so that means that they can suck it up through the proboscis. They obviously don't have jaws in that stage of their life cycle, so they need liquid, and a carcass provides just that. You'd be surprised that obviously while there are hyenas and many jackals and pied crows circling the air and vultures somewhere in the distance, a lot of animals will avoid it, but a carcass anywhere will attract a lot of attention. It's food for many. And some carcasses will just go unnoticed. They'll just never be found. Chase! Giraffes are big animals, so big animals are going to have big rib cages. It's tough to tell if it's fully grown. I think I would be lying if I could say, yes, this is a fully grown. I can see that it's male. But because it's on the ground and actually not standing up, it's very difficult to tell. It does look like a younger boy. But I don't think adult. I do think it's a younger boy. But again, I would be lying if I could really give proper details. Because it's so different when the animal's lying flat. But yet, giraffes are huge. Someone mentioned that yesterday, that it was really nice to, well, not nice, but it's interesting, to see the hyenas, because I was talking about how big the hyenas are in comparison to the size of the giraffe. It just actually makes you realize, wow, okay, giraffes really are huge. I mean, you know they're big, but then when you see it like this, you think, yes, wow, huge. And a lot of meat to go around. I don't think these hyenas will need to eat much for a long time. I actually thought in my head that there would be less meat left. I thought throughout the night there would have been a crazy feeding frenzy because they are nocturnal. All the hyenas would have come down and there would actually be not much left. But to be honest, there's still a lot left. More than I thought. Vince, yes, 100%. The organs harbor all the nutrients. Muscle is just protein after all, so absolutely organs go first. Easy to eat, soft, delicious, I would believe. Not for me, but delicious. And easy to access. Once you go through the tummy, the softer part, the organs are what you come to first. And yes, they will absolutely go first. And then, of course, the animal will work its way out. Start in, work your way out. And they will eat the muscle, of course they will, but it is just pure protein. Whereas the organs, different organs are going to house different things, but you'll get your vitamin A and your B's and your C's and your K's and all of these different vitamins, all of the different nutrients that you need. So it's actually crucial that they eat organs. If they were just to eat muscle, well, it'd be a little bit problematic. Ah, the wildebeest have also come down for a drink. They're probably not going to hang around for long. We had elephants make an appearance yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if we get elephants coming down today. They're going to be attracted by the smell of the water. Some of them might not realize that there's a carcass here. Starbuck, I wish I knew the answer to your question, but it's a huge carcass. There's lots of meat. There's lots to go around. And if you think about it, hyenas and jackals are more than familiar with each other. They're not just discovering each other for the first time. And you will see, we have seen this morning already, the hyenas do so they give them a little bit of a grunt and the jackals run. But either way, there's plenty of meat. They're all eating on different parts of the carcass. And they're just used to each other. I have a funny feeling that the dominant hyenas have disappeared. They've fed and left. And I have a funny feeling these could be the less dominants who are now getting the chance to tuck in, the submissive ones. And they naturally will be less aggressive towards the hyenas. So I have a funny feeling that's what's going on. But I don't really know. And it just goes on and on with the carcass. I think now that we're at 11:30 almost, we're going into that really hot window of the day. Between 11 and 3, they say, where the rays are at their strongest. And even though it's winter, it's still very, very hot. So I have a funny feeling it is going to get quieter. And only the real low-ranking individuals, I think, are getting their chance to eat now. Now, I don't know this clan, so I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but that's what I think is happening. looks a bit eerie when you don't see the hyena and you just see the giraffe moving. It's a little bit eerie. There we go. Glad you can see the hyena's head. It just keeps moving that giraffe's leg. I wonder how long this will go on for. But when Javi and I had that epic sighting on my birthday that some of you might remember, some of you not, it's okay. I obviously remember it because it was my birthday and it was incredible. But it was a buffalo kill, which is actually really rare in Madikwe. When you speak to sort of all the people that have been here a long time, there's sort of one coalition of males, 3 of them that do take down buffalo. Otherwise, not so often. The lions here tend to go for giraffe and zebra and wildebeest. And on this buffalo kill, I think we got to it a little bit later. It was found on day 2 or 3. And after the lions moved off, of course, the spotted hyenas came in, but they were also brown. At the same time, all hanging around. There were multiple browns staying on the periphery, waiting until the spotties moved off. So you never know, there could be a brown lurking around. They're also attracted to this. They also want a piece. It would be such a dream to see a brownie. I'm going to sit and live in hope. But as we watch this carcass unfold, we're going to send you guys back over to Ralph in Djuma.
So, back at the Djuma waterhole. And we were watching the hippos a little bit earlier, but whenever we're around the waterholes, we always want to think of the amphibians. Now, hippos, I would say, generally are one of the largest amphibians that you can get. Even though they are mammals, they're a little bit in between, aren't they? But something that I've just read, which is very interesting, and it does link in with the hippos per se, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Professor Louis du Preez of Northwest University has recently been honored for his research into understanding the parasites that affect Malagasy frog species by having a newly discovered species named after him. And the frog from the south of Madagascar is now known as the Blomeresia dupreezi, an honor bestowed by a group of German scientists. Oh, as we have some elephants coming down to drink. I'll carry on the story as we watch them just having a drink there. And it's an honor bestowed by a group of German scientists from the University of Braunschweig Landesmuseum in Darmstadt and the Zoological Museum in Munich. And Blomeresia dupreezi belongs to a group of frogs called the Mantellidae, which can only occur in Madagascar and the Comoro Islands. And a recent paper on the frog's discovery suggests that it be classified as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List. du Preez is a renowned National Research Foundation B-rated scientist and is affiliated with Northwest University's Unit of Environmental Sciences. He also leads the African Amphibian Conservation Research Group, which focuses on the conservation and well-being of amphibians, according to a statement from Northwest University. And very important that frogs are indicator species because they breathe through their skin, so everything that is in the water will affect them. If there's any pollution, frogs are usually the first to go. So interesting to note and very important to understand amphibians. And du Preez said that his interest in amphibians started when he was a postgraduate student. He worked on a group of flatworms which infected frogs, terrapins, the Australian lungfish, and hippos. He realized that to understand the parasites, you have to know the hosts as well, and that's the way that he got interested in frogs. So today he works on both parasites and frogs, and he says that we're still discovering frogs unknown to science. Research into frogs is important as they are the most threatened vertebrate group on the planet. To protect frogs, we need to know them and understand their specific requirements. And it's always difficult when these animals are underwater, in the water. It's sort of out of sight, out of mind. Frogs were the first animals to colonize land some 350 million years ago. They play a key role in the environment and maintain the balance in the food chain. Not only do they eat vast amounts of insects, but they serve as food for other vertebrates. So very, very interesting indeed that there is now a new frog in Madagascar, not a new frog, but a newly named frog after the very interesting scientist that comes from the Northwest Province. So I really like that. But remember, if you do look up that frog itself, remember that it is Dupree, Dupreezi, not Dupreezi. It's Afrikaans surname, but that's lovely that we have now another discovered frog in the world. And look at this guy. He's just spraying that water like a shower hose. That's fascinating. See how we always enjoy watching elephants at the water because they just love it. Look at that youngster playing with his trunk. I think he's still trying to work out if he needs to blow or suck to get that water out of his trunk. He's out there a little bit shy, hiding behind the thickets there. It looks like a young leadwood. But it's a nice spot for them to drink from, in that open patch, just on the opposite side of the dam. I've only seen a few of them. I think it might just be a small group. Gail, you gotta love the antics of the youngsters. They just they get up to all sorts of nonsense, don't they? And you can see the real amusement that they get around water. Not only is it a life-supporting essential element, but I think it's really a good part of their entertainment as well. It's lovely to have a bit of fun while you're surviving. So you also saw there a little bit of a swinging of the leg. This is a very important kind of body language that you do need to be able to read on elephants. That's a youngster, but if, elephants will put themselves in different poses when they're doing different things. And if you understand that body language and the poses that they pose, you can then understand what they may be thinking or what they might be doing or going to do next. And a big adult elephant standing in front of you, swinging its leg, you need to be very careful because it's thinking about doing something naughty. As this one, I think, is now, after it swung its leg, it's now getting up to no good, playing with sticks, throwing the water around. Looks like he wants to spray his sibling. It's a bit like the playground. Whenever they come down to the water, it's generally playtime. Unless they've got something else on their mind, always spend time at the water. I think the adults have to often coerce or move the youngsters along. Theo, yes, they can be, but not particularly. They won't be dangerous themselves per se, unless you're on foot, because even a little baby elephant is immensely strong. But the trouble comes from youngsters that are overly boisterous, and they might get themselves into a bit of a tricky position with us as humans. So, for instance, if there's one, being overly boisterous with a vehicle, etc., it's the mother that you want to worry about more so than the youngster, because they can get up to no good, but then suddenly the mother can perceive something that you do as a threat, and then there can be trouble from there. So you do need to just have your wits about you when there are elephants around the vehicle, etc. If they can get up to no good. And if you look on my social media, you might see that I recently had a small run-in with a young male elephant in the Uchab River in Namibia, in one of the ephemeral rivers. And I went looking with a group of Italian guests for the elephants. I only had a couple of hours, but I know where they generally hang out. So we were very quickly able to find them. But there was one youngster that came up to my vehicle, and I know that he had done this before because of the way that he did it. He walked up and he was about the size of this one in the foreground here with those short little tusks. So probably, about 3 or 4 years old or so. So a relative youngster, and he walked up to the vehicle and proceeded to put his tusks immediately onto the bonnet and put his trunk right on the windscreen. So it was lovely for the guests, but I had to shout at him because he was denting my bonnet, my 4x4 with his tusks, but we got a lovely shot of the trunk. Literally, you couldn't see the windscreen, so the trunk was literally smelling us right up close. We've got some lovely videos of it. But he dented my bonnet with his tusks, and then he moved around the side and hooked, with his short little tusks, he hooked my wing mirror and basically broke it off. And the way that he did it, I could see that he had done it before. So it seemed like that had now become a bit of a game for him. And I think a lot of tourists going in there, they can go self-drive, and I think that they probably wouldn't know what to do in that situation, and will just allow the elephant to continue on doing relatively destructive behavior. But for the elephant, it's just like a game. But anyway, it wasn't funny for me. Luckily, I had comprehensive insurance on the vehicle, so it wasn't a problem. And we had the evidence of the elephant actually in the act. So we could show the insurance company that because these 2 dents in the bonnet and then a broken wing mirror, I don't think if we didn't have the evidence, if they would have believed us that it was in fact elephants that did it. But yes, so they can get up to no good.
Hi, Wild Earth lovers. I'm Holly. I'm from Rochester, New York, and I'm a wildlife explorer. I'm also the proud and ecstatic recipient of a 3-night stay at Matswiri Safari Lodge in the Decoy Game Reserve. So Wild Earth, I want to thank you for being there. I want to thank you for this wonderful prize, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you shortly.
Sign up today and you could be the one experiencing it yourself.
There's just that little water thickney there on the edge. Have you got a little bit of a limp? And the blacksmith lapwing. William, they are indeed. It seems like they're always there. The little parrots are still in their nest. I had a look earlier. There was one in there, but I think it may have flown off. But they're in and out. They are definitely still around. We'll have a look again at some stage. There was some Inyala feeding below the tree that they're in. But they're definitely there. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. I think they like that tree. It's crazy how elephants just disappear in the brush so quickly. Always fascinating how quickly they can disappear. Looks like they've had their drink. I wonder if there's any more going to come through and have one as well. Scan across and see what else is around. Maybe our hippos are back to playtime as well. Wishful thinking. Looks like they're just having a snooze. Always just got to look everywhere and very closely for any of our spotted cats. And there have been wild dogs around, so they generally show themselves quite easily. They don't stay still for too long. But it's our leopards that we want to look through the brush very slowly and carefully. As I think that's Dewey now, who's just put his head under the water. Quite a breeze coming through. Seemingly from the west. You can often see the catfish that they like to hang around the hippos, because as they defecate, there can be lots of insects and other small fish coming to feed on that defecation, and then the catfish feed on them. And speaking of things feeding on each other, I bet those hyenas are still eating the giraffe.
Oh yes, Ralph, they are. They have not stopped. Quite similar color palettes. I love looking at color palettes of animals. And hyenas and this giraffe at least, giraffes can have different tones and shades. It's very similar. What are you looking at? Ralph was talking about a new frog. There's actually a frog that I wanted to share with you guys. I know we're not looking at frogs, but this is Ralph's fault. And I believe, I can't remember when, I'll find out the date, but this frog was found and it looked just like an ordinary frog, really. I mean, frogs look like frogs. And they captured this frog because they weren't sure which species it is. And considering they're finding new species of amphibians all the time, it's quite normal to be captured. So they captured a female, and 19 days after her capture, they actually moved her to a new aquarium, and to the absolute astonishment of all of the scientists there, she abruptly regurgitated, and she spat out 6 tadpoles. Not only that, everyone, but 6 days later, she actually threw up again. Sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you guys this. And she threw up fully formed baby frogs. Not tadpoles. So then scientists realized, whoa, this frog is not ordinary. This is not anything we've ever seen before. This is definitely a new species. And she became the world's only known species that is capable of swallowing her fertilized eggs using her stomach as a uterus, hence her name. She is the gastric brooding frog. You can Google her. And the frog young actually live in mummy's tummy, literally. I know a lot of adults say that to children. Oh, the baby's growing in mummy's tummy, but of course it's not the tummy, it's a uterus. But no. In this case, it is the tummy. And they live in the mum's tummy for about 6 to 7 weeks. And they will develop from egg naturally to tadpoles, then to tiny little baby frogs. And then once they're ready, she vomits them up over a period of several days in different stages of their life cycle. Not only that, everyone, she doesn't eat. That's the trick. Because if you've got babies growing in your tummy and then you eat, and it's just a bit weird to think about. So she doesn't eat, therefore she doesn't produce gastric acid, because we produce acids that help break down our food, hydrochloric acid, which are really strong, really strong acids. And if you're going to produce acids, that's obviously going to kill anything that's living in there. So she doesn't eat, she doesn't produce acids. And what she's essentially doing is switching her gastric acid juice on and off. She's able to control it. So she's able to repurpose her organ. The organ is a stomach, which is the same as ours. It's for digestion. It produces stomach acids and it breaks down the food and then puts them into the intestine for waste and then small intestine for absorption. We all know that. But this frog can repurpose her stomach, and she's able to turn on and off the gastric juices and then repurpose it as a uterus. What if medical science then became very interested? What if humans could do that? What if we could find a substance, maybe it's under control of a substance, that would also regulate our gastric acids in humans? What if we could work out how to reprogram one organ to fulfill the function of another? I don't believe they've got very far with that, but if a frog can do it, well, why can't we? It's amazing. They decided they wanted to capture this on video or in photography, so they went out and they got more female frogs. Gabby, you just Googled it and you said this is nightmare material. Oh, sorry, Gabby. See, I haven't actually Googled it yet. I've only read about it in my book called The Tapestries of Life. And I know they did a photo shoot though. That's what I was just about to tell you. So I think, Gabby, you might be looking at these photos. And they then decided to call it projectile vomiting because the tadpoles don't just go bloop, they go bloop and they fly out of mum. It's all down to muscular contractions. So, sorry, Gabby. But apparently, as mum opens her jaw, you can actually see some of the frogs inside getting ready to come out. Yes. Anyway, that was all just because Raoul started talking about frogs. I realized I wanted to share that with you. But, I mean, it's amazing, and we're finding new stuff all the time. And although science got very excited, I do agree that probably maybe there is a substance that can help us reprogram our organs. I mean, a lot of our organs do multiple functions anyway, but maybe we can reprogram. Maybe there is a chemical that would bring on that change within us. Maybe not, but if it's possible for frogs, I'm not saying that we can regurgitate our babies, but it's quite amazing. I love being blown away by the animal kingdom. I just love it. I love hearing all these new discoveries and things that go on, especially even with hyenas. We're still learning about these animals. Sorry everyone, I just had to have some water there, it's very hot. Apologies. But we think we know it all, and then we're like, oh, we don't. I mean, we got it wrong in the start. We thought they were hermaphrodites. We thought a lot about them. That they only sort of scavenge the dead, they dig up graves. And then, of course, now we realize through research that they're not hermaphrodites at all, and they're actually have one of the most amazing social structures to learn about, incredibly maternal. Yes, they do scavenge, but they also hunt. And I think that's the same with every species. There's a lot we don't know, even giraffes. It's only recently been discovered how loud giraffes are. We think they're quiet. Why do we think that? We think that because we can't hear them. But only recently, I can't remember the year. I'm not very good at remembering years. But they discovered that, oh no, they're not quiet. And it makes sense that they're not quiet. They do talk. But they talk in their own giraffe way. They were thought to be really taciturn in nature. And they do have a larynx, they do have a voice box, but it was thought maybe they don't produce enough airflow to push out sound. I mean, their neck is pretty long. However, they are known to hum. They spend all of their evenings humming. And it only happens at night, and this is probably because they're very visual, and their visual capacity is reduced at night, as it is with us all. And the hum, an average hum, comes in at about 92 hertz. So it's not classified as infrasound, but it is really, really low for humans to hear. So we don't hear it. We're also probably not with giraffes at nighttime. And we just were not aware that this was going on. Days, absolutely. I love them too. These strange discoveries, it's like sci-fi, but reality. I mean, poor Gabby's now got nightmares, but Google it. This frog grows babies in her tummy and not a uterus. Oh, it's crazy. It's mind-blowing. And this is our natural world. And that's why I do tend to avoid using the word magic. It was a WWF that taught me that. And Davi and I produced a series with them, and we used the word magical. And they asked us to refrain from using that, and they explained why. And then it all made sense to me. Like, magical is a great word. It's a lovely word. It's very common. Ah, that's magic. But when you use it to describe the natural world, look at this, living its best life. It gives the wrong impression, especially to the younger generation, that is something magical and wonderful, but we are detached from it. We are not related to it. It's not part of our world. It's some magical thing that's happening. But actually, it is our world. It isn't actually magic. It's real. We're very much part of this, and we should be proud of it, and we should take better care of it. And if you think of all these words, supernatural. Supernatural is used to define things like ghosts and aliens and spaceship and things that we can't quite define that are supernatural. But hold on a minute. Why have we used that awesome word, super and natural, put together, supernatural, to describe those things that we really don't even understand, or even if they're true, that's a whole other story. But why don't we use that word to describe our natural world? Because our natural world is supernatural. It is super. You have bats that communicate and hunt in complete darkness using echolocation. You have salmon that can swim upstream to the exact same place that they were born. You have turtles that can cross ocean and also come back to lay their eggs in the exact spot to the centimeter where they were born. You have elephants that can smell water for miles. You have animals that can communicate in a chemical world. All of these incredible things are our world, and it is super and it is natural. And I wish that word had been used for our natural world. So yes, Des, I took that comment really far, but I agree. I love these discoveries. And there's tons of them. Day and day we're finding out more. Oh, I've not seen hyenas in water in a very long time. That's how confident they are. If you think about when zebras approach water, when giraffes approach water, everyone's nervous. Ah, these guys, no way. They're not nervous, they just climb on in. Think how good that feels. You're hot, you're fat, you're full, tired. We jump in a bath, why can't they? It's just amazing that they're still feeding 2 and a bit hours later. You really would think that they would be full right now. But as soon as the carcass is empty, meaning there is nothing on it other than the insects that we can't really see, the pied crows will swoop down. They're somewhere. We've been watching them fly ahead. And I don't quite know where the vultures are. In the Eastern Cape, there are no vultures. But in Madikwe, you get a lot. And I just love a vulture sighting. So as we sit and watch this carcass disintegrate, we're going to send you back over to those elephants in Djuma.
Oh, yes, indeed. There are lots more elephants that have come down to the Djuma waterhole, and with them, lots of youngsters. So we do expect there's going to be fun and games, and hope that they stick around for a little while so we can see them playing in the water. It would be awesome. Look, tiny little one there. That one is not very old at all. A couple of months at the most. So it seems that those other three were just the initial ones to arrive, and the rest of them now have followed suit. And a couple doing what elephants do best, going for a swim. And obviously, we always think about how intelligent elephants are. They're just incredible in understanding the environment, and the way that they have such an intricate social structure, very gregarious. That one going right under the water. I'm going to do a headstand. And the other one tries to climb on top of it. Hope he doesn't get stuck. They can hold their breath for quite a long time as well. A little youngster getting in the mix. And I'm pretty sure those hippos aren't going to come anywhere near them now. They'll get chased off. But you do sometimes have, a bit of conflict between elephants and hippos. And there's somebody called Randall Moore who recounts an extraordinary tale that demonstrates the long-term memory of elephants. He returned 2 American elephants to Africa and released them in the Pilanesberg National Park in Africa. Many years later, one of the females, or Wala, was bitten by a hippo. As I was speaking, they do sometimes run into trouble with each other, and the wound required regular treatment by a vet. So rather than repeatedly immobilizing her, park officials invited Randall to try to use his vocal commands that he had obviously used in the zoo to call her over so that they could treat her without anesthesia. After 12 years of separation, Randall called her by name. She immediately walked up to her, raised her trunk, and allowed the vets to treat her wound. So it's incredible how they do have a very long and expanded memory. And they speak of the largest animals with the biggest brains having very long memories. And Elephant Voices Joyce Poole has her own account of an elephant's memory. In the mid-1980s, she established a special relationship with a young male named Vladimir. When she parked her car nearby and called to him, he would come to her window, allowing her to touch his trunk and tusks. They interacted thus perhaps 8 to 10 times over the course of about 5 years. And due to a variety of circumstances, after 1991, Joyce did not see Vladimir for 12 years. It's quite strange, it's the same amount of time. When she met him again with Peter in May 2003, he was a 34-year-old male, and with his grown-up appearance and new tears in his eyes, she hardly recognized him. But there was something about the way he moved that told Joyce that this was her old friend. They drove nearby, stopped the car, a car that was new to him, and Joyce called his name. Vladimir left his path and came deliberately over to the car and walked by, almost rubbing his side on the car. Joyce circled again, parked, and called his name. This time he walked up to Joyce's window and allowed her to touch his trunk and tusks, just as she had done 12 years before. So very, very interesting. And I've had a few run-ins with different elephants, and some good run-ins, some not so good run-ins. The one in particular was on Kariega Game Reserve, where I spent a long time facing off with a big bull, the big bull on Kariega Game Reserve, at about 5 meters. And I had a very stern talking to him, because I had a group with me of students that were learning how to approach dangerous game on foot. But we didn't approach him. We were surprised by him, as he was by us. So we had quite an interesting interaction. But I had to be very stern with him and give him, a very good talking to. And ever since then, whenever I see him on the vehicle and he hears my voice, he walks away. He doesn't anywhere near my vehicle. So it's a shame, because I'd love to see him a bit closer, but it's obvious to me that he remembers my voice, and the not so good interaction that we had. But I'm pretty sure that it saved both the elephant's life and my life by having that little stern conversation. But he remembers that, and now he doesn't particularly like me. So it just goes to show, as these guys are starting to have a whale of a time. Rachel, what better than to watch elephants playing in the water? My day is also made. If I have to, when I always ask guests what they'd like to see today, whatever, 8 times out of 10, it's leopards. But for me, it's elephants. They are just fascinating. They're awesome. They're amazing. They're funny. They can be dangerous. They're just everything, all in one, I feel. There's 2 youngsters in the background having a bit of a wrestling match, and some in the water as well. And I think they really like the light weight that they obviously achieve when they're in the water. Shame, but that little baby, or really young one there, struggling to keep his head above the water. But you can see the way his trunk is moving. He's having a great time. And it's so nice to see this waterhole so full of water, because it just makes this playground that much better for the elephants. It doesn't help if there's no water in it. So Wesley, I think that they do have a level of or an amount of flotation. They've got a lot of gas in their bellies, so there will be cavities that won't be waterlogged, and that will keep them to a degree floating. But they've got very, very heavy bones and structure. So I think it lightens the load, but I think they'll still sink if they're not able to push off the bottom or able to swim. And then you can actually see them putting their trunks out of the water. I've seen many, many herds of elephants crossing the Zambezi and the Chobe River and in the Okavango Delta, where it's too deep for them to obviously stand. And you can see that they are swimming. And the youngsters grab onto the adults' tails, etc. And they do, they definitely go under the water to the point where they are actually swimming. And I've seen porpoising elephants in the Pongola-Poort Dam or Jacini Dam in KwaZulu-Natal. They actually got charged. It was incredible. In the water, about 500 meters away from the bank, two big bulls thought it was going to be funny to charge me on my little rubber dinghy. And so we had to hot-foot it out of there. But they are really able to swim with an incredible degree of skill as well. But the fun that they have is just something else. It just makes the wrestling that much more enjoyable, I think. They can push each other around. So I definitely do feel that it makes them feel, lighter, and so that's where the real joy comes from. I think they're just much lighter on their feet, and it's just like us, where it's just another element to be able to play in, and it's very different to being out on land. You can just see how much they're enjoying that and getting up to no good with each other.
Hi there, my name is Robert Williams, Dr. Rob in the Yahoo chat. I've been a long-time supporter of Wild Earth, and I just got an email from them informing me that I had won a trip to the Pakadu River Lodge in Madikwe. And I am looking forward to accepting this prize and making a trip to Africa and seeing all the interactions with wildlife, particularly predators like hyenas, in person.
Sign up today and you could be the one experiencing it for yourself. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
And you generally find also that it's more so the males that partake in extended periods of amusement, such as this. Whereas the females, you find a little bit more serious and concerned with the babies and the well-being of the group. And so now I wonder if they've been told, time to go. Stop playing around. We've got serious business to get down to. I'll always try and milk it. So Tracy, yes, there's quite a few similarities between elephants and whales, obviously being such massive mammals. Yeah, the bones both very heavy on both of them. They obviously have all the characteristics of mammals. Yeah, there's obviously the separation between the water and the land. But with them being such big mammals, and you would expect that the evolutionary development is it's not far separated between the elephants and the whales. So I think with that in mind, it's probably one of the reasons that they do love the water so much, as they're probably quite well connected with it, not far removed, if I can say that. And a lot of there are quite a number of species that are herbivorous as well in the ocean. So quite similar digestive systems too. No, it looks like they either haven't been told or they are going against the will of the group, or at least the matriarch, who's taken the rest of the group out of the area. Seems it's only these ones now remaining. You just can't stop playing. Bundubash, me too. I could watch him all day, every day. It's just wonderful. And I love seeing elephants in their happy place. It's, yeah. You know, I've seen also a lot of elephants that are not happy, having had bad interactions with mainly humans, where there is hunting or poaching. And you can just feel from the group's, you know, body language, their persona, that they don't have as much fun. There's not that much time for amusement. And it's just lovely when you see elephants in this kind of scenario where they're just totally carefree and enjoying life. That one's swimming back over. Here he comes. That's it. You got to swish the water around. There we go. Slowly starting to dwindle now. It looks like it might nearly be over. Maybe not. They haven't had enough just yet. So even in this play, though, you know, particularly if it is bulls, very important, as we see, you know, across different species, playtime it's a fun way of learning and also getting muscle memory. You see them pushing each other backwards and forwards. That's important because the bulls are going to have to be, you know, doing that later in life. And through play, they learn those skills and also get the muscles and the muscle memory to be able to perform that and perform it well. So playing around like this later in life, they might have to fight for mating rights with females. And so it's good practice. Even though just for now, it's only for fun. See that? Also putting their ears out, trying to make themselves look bigger. They're pretty evenly matched though. Similar sized tusks, similar sized body. Just a bunch of naughty teenagers, huh? So, Reg, I'd like to say no, not really, not possible. But stranger things have happened. And if you look at the size of some of the crocodiles in the Masai Mara, for instance, those are the largest crocodiles that I've ever seen. I would say some of them in excess of 6 meters and probably about more than a meter wide. They're just massive. So I think potentially in deep water there is the chance that they could. I would say no, but I think it's possible in that kind of special scenario where you've got some of the those massive crocodiles, a nice deep point, and just through the way that crocodiles hunt, it's just literally get whatever you are chasing or whatever prey is available underwater for long enough, and then you can feed ad lib, at your will. So I think there's definitely potential for that scenario, and I think it probably has happened, and it probably will happen, but not to my knowledge. A little bit of head shaking there, pretending he's crossed with the other one, but that's all currently in playful mood. And it's charging, jeepers. I feel sorry for the thicket, the bush, the plants when they get up to this kind of nonsense, because everything gets pushed over and broken, but it's all in the name of play. And it also goes to show you how quickly they move. They've moved a substantial distance and very quickly as well. They can really shift when they want to. The top of the screen there, you can see some of the others. I think they may have started to feed a little bit after their swim. Not all of them had a swim, but at least after their drink. Replenish their thirst. Now it's time to get back to gathering calories and energy. Obviously, even this play would have expended quite a bit of calories as well. So they need to replenish that. And the only way to do that is to feed on plants if you're an elephant. The game, however, is not up. Look at that. These youngsters are just carrying on. They can't seem to stop. But that can be almost every day. At this age, those elephants, they will be, especially if there's a few, as we've seen, of the same age, there's almost constantly play going on. In between, they might feed a little bit. But it's very often when you have the females, they get quite angry with the younger males because they're a little bit too boisterous, especially when there's small little calves around like this group does have. That's when they slowly but surely are then pushed to the outskirts of the group. They aren't really allowed to join in with the group, and more they'll be pushed away, and then that's when they slowly start going on their own. So that's sort of the evolution of a male elephant. Once they get into their teens, they start becoming boisterous. If there's no other males around of the similar age, then they've got nobody to, vent their frustrations and get their energy out like they're doing now. So they start taking it out on the group and playing and doing silly things around the little calves, which becomes dangerous. And then the older females chase them out. And these elephants are still there, but they're hidden in amongst the brush. There's a bit of movement there. There we see a tusk again. And still wrestling. I'm sure they feel nice and fresh now after having that swim. That's why they're just carrying on. Ears out, trying to, often fighting through a bush as they're doing there. Looks like they're going through silver cluster leaves. There we go. He's poking through it. Get him. He's going to reverse over a bush as well. He's doing the moonwalk. Doot, 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 doot. And as quick as it started, as it ended, I don't want to call it because every time I say that, they seem to carry on. They're still around, but looks like the rest of the group have headed on up and away. Deb, yeah, well, that's one angle. Maybe they did go too far. Maybe the other one's moaning about how far it went. But then you see them go for it again. So I think it's all bluff. They're bluffing. So there'll probably be a bit of dusk bathing as well. Generally, elephants will do that, cool themselves off in the water, but then sort of secure it or lock in the moisture by throwing dust on themselves. So you very often find that kind of rhythm. Drink, bath, or spray yourself with water, and then go for a dust bathe immediately after. So I generally expect that to happen, although there is quite a bit of wind around. So they might not find it necessary to go for the dust bathe, although I'm pretty sure there are some spots around there to get some decent dust. I have walked this area quite a lot. Let's just see if there's anything else about, as the elephants are slowly disappearing. I mustn't forget that while we're watching there, you never know, you might have a leopard walk right here on the road. You just got to keep checking. Maybe we'll have a last-minute leopard. Or those wild dogs that are in the area might pop past. Nelson, thank you for joining us on another great escape. It's always wonderful. And every day there's something different. You just never know what to expect. And it's great for Earth Day for us to be celebrating the wildlife, especially in these wilderness areas that we're very privileged to be able to go to. From here to Okukuyu in Etosha, as well as Madikwe and Amakhala. It's just lovely and nice, diverse locations, completely different from each other. from this sort of savanna biome to the semi-arid savanna that you get in Madikwe, to the lush greenery of the Albany thicket in Amakhala. Very, very different. And nice to see that the different animals that you get in all the locations, but some of the same species surviving in different locations and in different biomes, and the antics that they get up to and the way that they survive as well. It's not long before the end of the show. Let's just have a quick peek and see if we can see our resident parrots. They're in that hole just over there. And there's very often woodpeckers around and in and around this tree as well, because it is dead. It's been ring-barked by the elephants, most likely in winter, when that's what they generally do. They start stripping the bark off these trees. And if they go all the way around, well, then it can't get its water and food processes going up and down the tree. But then it does make it home for the likes of parrots and woodpeckers, and the woodpeckers also use it as a very big source of food. So it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing the wild dogs unless they show up any second now, because we are just about done. So it's been wonderful. As always, the stars of the show, the animals, have really showed up today. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And as always, thanks to the whole Wild Earth team, everybody behind the scenes. We do the easy job as the naturalists, talking nonsense. But it's been wonderful to have you on board. So don't forget, there will be the sunset safari at 2:30 this afternoon. And of course, we'll get to do this all again tomorrow. So have a lovely day, folks. Until tomorrow, ciao for now.